I'm Femi OK, and you're in the stream.
And I'm Malika Bilal. Today is Fortnite more than just a video game.
We are diving into one of the biggest cultural phenomenons in gaming. So share your thoughts in our live YouTube chat, or you can tweet us at AJStream, and you too could be in the stream. The free-to-play online video game Fortnite is a cultural juggernaut.
Not only is it influencing pop culture, but pop culture is influencing Fortnite. The game boasts more registered players than the populations of Canada and Mexico combined. It also generates roughly $250 million in revenue each month for its creator, Epic Games. But for many of the 200 million people who play it, Fortnite isn't just a game, it's a communal gathering place.
Joining us to talk about this from Los Angeles, we have Jamin Warren. He's an avid gamer and founder of 256, a company that works with brands to engage with the world of play and interactivity. In New York, Aisha Hassan is a journalist who regularly reports on the gaming world. In Charlotte, North Carolina, author, psychologist and co-founder of Shrink Tank, Frank Gaskill. Good to have you. And we also want to introduce you to one other person you will see throughout the show. Mohanid Rashid is a digital producer here at the stream and an avid Fortnite gamer. He'll be playing the game during our discussion, so you'll be able to follow along. And his Fortnite journey is at the bottom of the screen all the way through. So if you get killed early, Mohanid, we will know. No pressure. All right.
No pressure at all.
Malika and I have never played Fortnite, so we're going to play with you. Okay. What do we need?
Let's jump right into it. So here we are in the lobby screen, as you can see. This is where, right before you jump into the game.
Okay.
So real quick, I'm gonna go to my locker.
You are so fast. What's happening now?
Femi, I'm gonna have you choose my outfit.
All right.
I'm gonna go through.
Stop.
This guy?
Yep.
Okay, sweet. And Malika, I'm gonna have you choose my back bling. So I have countless
back bling. Okay. Well,
do you like these wings?
Wings, yes. I want wings. Okay, I want you to fly.
So now I'm back in the lobby and I'm ready to go, fire up, and all I do is click triangle and I'm jumping in a game.
All right. Can you play and talk?
Of course I can play and
talk.
talk.
All right, play and talk.
Of course. So, well, the loading screen takes a couple of seconds, and I'll be probably in a game in probably a minute or two.
All right. Well, we're watching you at the bottom of the screen. Meanwhile, Malika.
So, Femi, we know that we have a lot of gamers in our community, but this is one person who is not as enthralled, and so I want to start this conversation with them. This is Christopher, who says, I heard a lot about this game, Fortnite, and was curious to see if it was worth all the hype. After trying it for a month, I decided it wasn't for me. Love the look, but spending 20+ minutes wandering a giant world without seeing a soul to just get taken out from behind is not my idea of fun. So, Jamin, Jamin, I see you laughing there. I want to give a little teaser for our audience, because Mohanid, before the show, described the game as a version of the Hunger Games. If you've seen the movies or you read the books, describe for us, based on this tweet from Christopher, what it is that you're actually doing in this game.
Yeah, Hunger Games is actually a great analogy for it. As a culture, we're familiar with the battle royale genre, the kind of winner-takes-all format that exists in a lot of different places. So you have things like dodgeball, March Madness for basketball. So I think culturally, we sort of understand what it means to be the last person standing. What's really unique and revolutionary about Fortnite is that it throws 100 people into an environment that they all share, and the last person to be standing wins. There's a big ring that sits outside the world that kind of pushes people into a more and more compressed space. But for the fellow who is feeling a little down about being lost by themselves, they may want to consider playing with other people. You can actually play as duos, you can play with a squad. So at least if it's not just you getting taken out, it's the rest of your crew. So it's a really innovative format, a really interesting twist on a very popular gaming style.
Frank, the first time you played Fortnite and you were immersed in this world, what were you thinking? Did you see what the actual game was trying to do for you as a player?
Well, I'll tell you, the first time I played it is the same experience. I was in there for 20 minutes. I didn't know what I was doing, even though I'm a gamer, and I just decided to give up and just play on my phone, what's interesting about this game is cross-platform. You can do PlayStation, Xbox, you name it. But my claim to fame is, after playing it for about a month, I actually got a solo win. I actually won the game on my phone, which gives me a lot of street cred with some of the clients that I see. But it also, in playing this game with my son and getting better at it, it was just a very bonding experience. It was very funny when this broadcast started and I could hear the theme music it made me feel like I was actually walking into my house and hearing my two kids playing, and it was very familiar.
I like that idea because it's the familiarity that people online are saying is what draws them to it, because it's a thing that they come back to again and again. So this is Gene Park, and he says some of the appeal, it's free, which is a big factor. It's on every modern platform. It being on phones was a big enabler. And Frank, you just mentioned how you played on your phone. Gene on Twitter says it enables cross-platform play. That way, progress is always ensured no matter where you are. Aisha, I want to bring you in here with this tweet. Is this different than the way other video games are played? The fact that you can play it on any platform? What makes it special?
So cross-platform, for those who don't know, basically means that no matter what platform you're on, whether that's a PS4 or mobile or a PC, you can play with other people. I would say Fortnite is actually the game that really brought this to the mainstream, and Sony actually caved into pressure at the end of last year to enable cross-platform play, largely because Fortnite players were like, look, we want to play with our friends, let us play with them on PS4 and stuff. And as previously mentioned, it's free to play. So that, combined with the fact that it's cross-platform, means that the barrier to entry was significantly lowered.
I'm just thinking, Jen.
Add to that.
Yes, Frank, go ahead.
Is when March Madness was mentioned, what's happening culturally over I'd say the last decade or more is, at least in the U.S. and probably worldwide, we don't have common experiences. So when I'm going to date myself, but when I was growing up, I was watching The Love Boat, Dukes of Hazzard, and we'd go to school and we'd talk about a particular football game because we had a limited choice in terms of what we could entertain ourselves with. This is that experience. All these kids, young adults, we have this shared experience now. So we can go into school or go into the workplace and talk about the time we spent together. And this is just one of those rare platforms where you can actually do that.
Jamin, have you seen other people around the world play this game, and are they having exactly the same experiences in different parts of the world?
One of the really important points about the game being able to be played on multiple devices is that every country is a little bit different. You know, access to high-speed internet is different in every country. Access to a PC gaming rig, for example, which might be on the more expensive side, is your mobile phone, which everybody has. Games like Fortnite really flatten the experience for everyone around the world. Is that you're not bound by having a police be a part of the conversation if you want to play the game with other people.
Right.
I think if you look at other forms of viral media, so whether that's video or whatever it might be, to take off.
Jeremy, we're having trouble connecting with you. We're talking about different kinds of connectivity in different parts of the world. We will dial you back in, but in the meantime, Frank, what is happening in your brain as you are playing Fortnite? What happens psychologically to you as a player?
Well, as in gaming, you have lots of different kinds of players.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be judged severely by all your social media in the audience, but I tend to be a camper.
Oh, no.
Which is somebody who hangs out, plays back, plays cautious. And that's actually how I got my solo win, is I got in a bush. You can actually, in this game, you can get a bush. And I wandered around the bush.
For 20 minutes, Frank.
What's that?
You hid in a bush for 20 minutes and then you won the game.
Well, I had to creep along because you have to stay within the eye of the storm.
All right.
And then there was one other guy left, and he was shooting bushes to try and find me, and I managed to kill him in a one. So that's a very cheap way to win. But that's what I love about playing with, especially my son, is he's a leader, and he tells you where to go, where to be, and it's a game that can teach leadership skills, problem solving, and it's really an impressive platform.
So when you're talking about the leadership skills, I want to go to Mohammed now because I'd like to know who it is that you play with. We know that it's a 100-player game and the world gets smaller and smaller. Who are you playing with right now?
So right now I'm in the solo mode, so I'm all alone in this huge, humongous world, and to not embarrass myself, I'm kind of doing what the guest just did. I'm not camping, but I did land far. I didn't go find smoke purposefully to fight. So right here, I just finished looting. I have full shield. I picked up a bunch of mats, so I'm ready for any battle coming my way. But usually when I do play, I don't like playing alone. I have a huge group of friends that I play with. We call our WhatsApp group Game Boys. And whenever someone wants to get on, we just message the group, who's on, guys? And we jump on the game and we play together. And that community feeling is really felt because One of my friends, for example, lives in Malaysia. The other lives in Doha. Some live in the West Coast. Some live in Chicago. So it's a great place to come together, to speak. And I play almost, I don't want to say on a daily basis to seem such exactly to seem like such a huge nerd, but I pretty much play on a daily basis, and I talk to these people almost every day. So they become close friends, and I even invited them to my wedding. So yeah.
Did you know them outside of Fortnite?
Here's the funny part, and I kind of feel bad.
Yeah.
I knew a majority of them in real life, so I invited those ones to my wedding. But there's a bunch of them who I haven't met, who I'm still good friends with, but I kind of felt weird inviting them to my wedding, but I kind of wish I did. Oh, and I just got killed.
No.
I have no idea what just happened.
We did that.
I literally just got killed.
It's the multitasking. No. So I'm gonna let you regroup there, because you talked about friends and that communal feeling. We got a video comment from a former member of the Stream family, former producer and host here, LaToya Peterson. She's a gamer. She's also on the board of advisors for Data and Society, and she talks about that community.
I'm LaToya Peterson from Washington, D.C., and Fortnite has become a cultural phenomenon, partially because the game is fun to play. It was a free-to-play, huge multiplayer battle game. And one of the key secrets to Fortnite's success is that it was fully customizable. You could completely fix your character, you change your world around. You had missions, but you could also just hang out with your friends. And so that makes for a really compelling experience. It makes for a really compelling multiplayer experience. And when more and more people started to play, there were a lot of reasons to meet in-world, the same way kind of people go to Starbucks as a third place. Fortnite has become the third place for kind of gamers and gaming. And so it's overleaped other types of games like Pokemon Go.
So Jamin, she mentions it's sort of like the new Starbucks. It's a place to meet. It's a place to hang out. What do you think of that?
I think that's true to a certain extent. The reality is that there's lots of things to do in Fortnite. So they've had some virtual concerts. They're experimenting with this big concert with Marshmello that millions of people attended. There's other types of game modes. So there's like a Minecraft-like game mode inside of Fortnite to build things. I think, at the end of the day, it's one of many places that people will go. I think in the same way that Starbucks is one of many different coffee shops. Sometimes people want this big coffee shop experience, and sometimes people want to go to like their local kind of like roastery. But the overall trend line is true that video games increasingly are becoming a place where many different types of people spend time together. That's 100% accurate.
Frank, go ahead.
My son, his Twitch handle is Vader Geek, as in Darth Vader, and he is trying to be Ninja, the guy that makes a ton of money playing this, and he's very, very good at it. But I tell him I was a little skeptical, and this has become his community. He's adding followers, he's interacting with them, and it's almost a game within a game, a healthy way of kind of building a following and follow other people. And I think it's not only just a Starbucks thing, but there's this tie-in to popular culture where, at least in the States, we've got the NFL, so you could buy skins, which is sort of the customizability of your favorite team. And I guess maybe a year or so ago, maybe longer, when the Infinity War came out, you could play as Thanos, which was ridiculous how quickly they blended those two franchises and how they can kind of tie into current pop culture stuff that's outside of the game is really impressive.
Sure. Frank, just in a sentence, just explain what Twitch is for those who are new to the vernacular.
Sure. Twitch is basically, it's not quite social media, but it's a way of following other people with similar interests. And you can stream your game. So on my phone, I will be at work and my phone will go off and it says, my son is now streaming video. And I can then click on that link and I can watch him play. And I can talk to him, I can interact with him. And it's another way of being connected in a highly digital world.
Aisha, you've done so many articles for Quartz about Fortnite. Here's one of them. Fortnite really is taking over everything in 2019. So you've been studying what it is about the game that is blowing up and has blown up in the past year. Can you put your finger on it for our audience? Because if you're watching this, you're seeing Mohammed play, you're seeing her play a game, our guests are enthusing about it. What is it that makes this so big?
Right, so I think Jamin and Frank actually touched on a few of these things. One of it is there's such a huge intersection with popular culture, like the Marshmallow concert, Drake played, that it's become so mainstream that there's more to connect with, as opposed to this traditional gaming experience where you have to be this really experienced gamer to sort of get anywhere. You can be casual, drop in and out, and still see all these cultural references that you can talk to your friend about. I think that's definitely one of the big things. And, Latoya, in her question earlier, she talked about how Fortnite was so customizable. And I think there's a really big parallel between not just, Fortnite and a Starbucks, but Fortnite and social media. It's free to play, but all these players buy skins, outfits, emotes, which are like dance moves that you can do. And they're almost like status symbols. So it's like you're going on Instagram and posting your, coolest new outfit. That's a similar appeal to Fortnite, I think. It's a way to show like, oh, you're doing this with your friends, or you're in with the latest skin or the latest weapon.
Can I just go off that? To agree with both our guests, this game really capitalized and learned how to work off hype. So what they do is there are seasons, for example, and about every 2 months or so, there's a new season. And with the new season comes a new version of the game, and new updates, and new guns. And they really have people on their toes with the new things. And every week they drop something new, they drop a new game mode, or they drop, like they said, emotes and skins. So that really also played into the big factor of why Fortnite is there's so much hype around the game. And people keep coming back to it because they learned how to make sure they're not boring, to keep bringing new things.
Mohammed, I love that you're in the conversation, but I don't want you to die. So I need you to focus there, because we got a comment. Again. I don't want you to die again. We got a comment on YouTube right now from Abdikhani, who says, I've played Fortnite with Mohammed plenty of times, and he's never left a man behind. So there's some support for you there.
Apart from his wedding.
Some little support for you there.
This is a friend that was invited to the wedding.
Okay.
So I want to actually bring up another YouTube comment we got. This is from Dahlia, and she says, do you think this online game is toxic to female gamers and streaming? And Aisha, because you're covering this, what's your take on that question?
Right. So gaming has a history of not being very friendly to female gamers. Sometimes they're marginalized players in the game, and there's been a history of female players being harassed, right? There was this phenomenon called Gamergate, where female gamers were just being really violently threatened online. So far, that hasn't materialized so badly in Fortnite. There have been sort of cases every now and then of young players being, scammed, or maybe there's some unruly behavior. I'm worried that maybe further down the lifespan of this game that might happen. But right now, Fortnite is built, for young people. It's super goofy. It's super fun, that I don't think it's as prevalent a problem yet. But that's completely different, I'd say, to maybe the gaming industry at large, which still has a long way to go in terms of diversity, accessibility, and being friendly to all genders of gamers.
And I want to add to that a little bit. First of all, I want to say hi to Dahlia. She's one of my Twitter followers. I know that name.
Nice.
And I'm glad she could tune in. But the thing that's fascinating to me, and I don't know if this could be a cultural shift, at least in the States, around gender. Because when I would play games, say in the 90s or 2000s, that it was Soul Calibur and women were very objectified. And when you would play the game, you typically, like, I'm a guy, I'd play as a guy, or if a girl's playing, she plays as a girl. But in this game, gender seems very nebulous, and my son will play as somebody who's clearly a woman, or a guy, somebody who's a guy, and that's not really ever discussed. They seem more interested in the style of the character and the skin, but I don't know if this is sort of the shift in gaming that is actually really positive.
Yeah, like for me, for example, I have a bunch of skins because unfortunately I've spent too much time on this game, but my coolest skins are the female characters, in my opinion. That's who I usually play with. But Femi, you made me choose this robot, which is my bad luck skin, but it's okay. I'm gonna try to get this done.
Sure.
So Frank, you mentioned the positives, and so then I hate to follow that up with a negative, but we got a video comment that's pretty interesting. And this is from Nathan Grayson. He's a reporter at Kotaku in LA, and he talks about the potential ethical dilemmas that we could run into with Fortnite. Have a listen.
While Fortnite offers players a place to hang out and have fun, it's still a game based on the fascist Bloodsport from a horror novel called Battle Royale. Fortnite put a more whimsical, less military hardware fetishizing face on the Battle Royale genre than other games, but it remains a playable, subtext-free version of that Bloodsport. It's slightly unnerving, but not entirely unsurprising, that the most popular game among kids in our ruthlessly competitive, hyper-capitalist society tells players to see everybody else, not some sort of broader system, as an enemy in a struggle that can have only one winner.
So, Jamin, it's based on a fascist blood sport from a horror novel. How would you respond to Nathan?
Well, I mean, I think that's like a fair reading and criticism of the game. I guess I would argue that that's a criticism that could be levied against any kind of winner-take-all environment, which games are very good at setting up. There are lots of games that feature, you versus everybody else. So, I mean, I think there's a good argument to be made that, fetishizing, just the idea of like winning at all costs, is probably not a good thing. But again, I don't think that this is unique to Fortnite. I'd mentioned some other things earlier. Dodgeball, for example, has a winner-take-all environment. King of the Hill. There are lots of these types of environments in games. So I think it's a really interesting read on it. But whether or not players are actively making that connection, I would argue is probably not the case.
I would add to that. There's I've got a lot of articles on Shrink Tank about video games and violence, and the research is pretty clear. And the reason why I describe it this way is, I have parents of clients that say, well, I'm not going to let my kid play Fortnite because it's violent. And what I say to them is, some of the games that cause kids to be the most aggressive or dangerous are driving games, football games, hockey, because they've done that. They've been in a car, they've played a game, so it fits in their head. Kids have never been on a floating bus, landing on an island, wearing these clothes. It's a kid's ability to separate themselves. Star Wars doesn't make you violent. And I think it's the ability to kind of see this as entertainment rather than necessarily a way of wiring their brains.
Aisha, there have been a couple of controversies surrounding Fortnite. I'm going to share a couple of them with our audience, and you can address them. Backpack Kid doing the floss. Here we go. Very nice. And I have to mention the Carlton dance. Here we go. We have the Carlton dance as well.
Right.
Explain why these two became controversies in the Fortnite world.
Right, so Backpack Kid, who's doing the floss dance and the Carlton dance, these are accessible in the game as emotes, which are basically animations that your character can do. And those two people, Backpack Kid, whose name is Russell Horning, and Alfonso Ribeiro, who plays Carlton in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, as well as the rapper 2 Milli, they've all sued Fortnite's developer Epic Games for basically stealing, well, what they allege is stealing their dance moves. And even more interesting is, in the very first of those lawsuits, 2 Milli said that Fortnite is explicitly appropriating the work of people of color, a lot of African-American artists. So this has started this whole debate, this legal debate about, can you copyright a dance move? And then there's another debate, which is like, how are video games appropriating the culture of people of color? So that's been a huge dialogue. People like Chance the Rapper have chimed in. Like, it's really something that I think is present in the mind of people watching and playing Fortnite.
For me, it gives you an example of how big the game is, that these conversations that we're having in the real world are actually now being started off by a video game.
Absolutely.
I'm going to wrap up with Malika and the community to see what she's up to.
So I'm going to give us two comments here from YouTube. One person pretty positively says, I played many games in my life, and Fortnite has to be the most active game I've ever come across. Constant updates and seasons keeps bringing people back. But someone else wants us to know, and he's not alone there, Fortnite is old news. Apex is the new top dog. You guys are behind, so that's the next game we'll have to do a show on.
And just on time, Mohamed, you're dead, right?
I'm dead, yes.
All right, he's dead. Mohamed, you are dead to us. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to the guests. See you next time, always online. Take care, everybody.